Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Film, the series where I talk to a variety of different people and talk about their love of film and what sparked it in the first place. And today I'm joined by Katie Smith-Wong. Katie, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone what it is that you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm a freelance film critic and journalist by night, sub-editor by day. I've been writing film content for around 12 to 13 years. I've written for Digital Spy, New Scientist, Den of Geek, Movie Marker, and Flick Feast, to name a few.
To name a few. That's
To
more
name a
than
few.
that's more than I've written for. I've only I think I've said this on a couple of episodes already, but I've only recently got into the writing thing. I've been doing YouTube for I think next year's my 10th year, but I've only been
Wow.
doing writing for the last, like professionally for the last like year or so. So I'm still a novice. All this.
I don't know. Some people prefer videos to writing.
That
You
is
know.
true. I'm finding it nice having that balance because there's certain things you can get across better in written form than you can in video and vice versa. And I'm liking the variety and the flexibility. But there are times where I do still find the writing slightly daunting. Just a little
Whereas I
bit.
can't. I'm terrible at public speaking. I
Mm,
can't. I have difficulty getting words out, like
mm,
coherent thoughts. That's why writing for me is much easier. Plus,
mm.
I'm a sub editor, so I can sub it.
Fair enough. No, I have that same thing. Put me in front of a camera, I'm fine. Put me in front of like a Word document, fine. As soon as you put me in front of a group of people, I'm like, no, I can't. It's partly to do with my dyspraxia because I have clear thoughts up here, but they do not come out my mouth properly. So to start things off, I'm just going to ask a general question. This is what I open with all the time, and this can be an old film or a new release. But what's the most recent film that you've seen that you absolutely loved?
You know what? One film I actually watched today
Hmm.
was Your Monster, starring
Oh,
Melissa
okay.
Herrera.
Hmm.
Uh, Essentially, it's about a woman who has been done by a boyfriend. She finds a monster in her closet
Hmm.
and they form a friendship, all the while she's missing her douchebag boyfriend. But
Hmm.
it's very warm, very
Hmm.
sweet, and I think it's like I was speaking to some of my friends about this, and they say it's cathartic, and I agree.
Hmm.
There's a lot of the message of trying to accept oneself and not be submissive to anybody's case is just like very clear in this film. And
Hmm.
so there's really great chemistry between Melissa Barrera and Tommy Dewey, who plays the monster. And it's not
Hmm.
like he's like a gothic monster.
Yeah.
Like he's quite, he just looks like a monster.
Hmm.
But he's comes across as very chill, very blunt guy.
Hmm.
And yeah, and there are some really great scenes, and the script is very good as well.
Hmm.
So, and I think after, because I watched Lisa Frankenstein earlier this year,
Yeah.
that was a bit disappointing. So, when you talk about another romantic horror comedy
Hmm.
about a misunderstood girl and misunderstood creature in their closet,
Hmm.
I kind of had reservations, but it's like as soon as I watched the trailer, I thought this could be quite fun.
Hmm.
And yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Is out soon.
Oh, okay. Because I saw some, I think it was reviews from Sundance, and it did pique my interest. But I didn't actually know it was coming out that soon. I might look into that because I do like. Oh God, I'm blanking on names now. I do like
Melissa
Melissa.
Barrera.
That's the Yep, that's the one. You just said it like 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, I've already
And
forgotten it. Oh God, this is a good start.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I do like her from the Scream film. Oh, and Abigail, which I've really liked earlier this year. I think I liked it a lot more than other
And she
people
does
did.
some singing, so that's good.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I might.
Well, she was in the height. You've not seen In the Heights?
No, I've been saying this to a couple people that we both collectively know, but like I just didn't get a chance to see it when it came out, and I like Lin Manuel Miranda, and I need to. plus I'm excited for Wicked as well, and I need to get round to
I'm
it.
watching that tomorrow.
So to start things off, um, just want to kind of get a gist of what made you want to pursue writing specifically about film in the first place, but also just generally what got you into writing as well.
I'd always really loved watching films.
Mm,
My parents used to run a takeaway, so they were working 12-hour days, working from early in the day to late at night.
mm,
You know, like videotapes were the easiest way to like entertain me and my older brother. So we were watching Disney films and Enter the Dragon and Doctor No
mm.
way before I hit 10. And
I love that.
um, I know, but it did kind of set that course. It's like that's the kind of thing that I want to watch
Mm,
in terms of like genres and
yeah.
styles. So, but when it didn't really the writing thing didn't really come about until university,
Mm,
and there were opportunities to write for the student newspaper, which I did, but unpaid. So it was just mean like the odd review, the odd feature. As soon as after I've left university, didn't really think about it. Went into an office job in London. After what 4 or 5 years, I realized that I just needed an outlet, something creative, something to challenge me. And I remember talking to my older brother about this. I think we were just talking about randomly about Superman Returns of all things.
hmm.
I'm not sure why. I think we were just discussing how much I didn't like that film. Anyway,
Fair
but
enough.
anyway, we were just saying that, oh, we could write about it. And then my partner said that you could, And I'd already approached Empire magazine for a work experience placement, so the door was open there to take the opportunity. I guess because no one really talks about being a film critic as a career until you actually meet someone who actually does it. So I didn't have a clue on how to start. So the first thing I kind of did was to go take a online learning course about feature writing, just to make sure to like top up the skills and try and find a style, make sure I know what to look out for, and then met quite a few film fans who were also bloggers at the time. And once we networked, and then I started to touch base with other sites, that was when it kind of kicked off. And fast forward 12 years later.
I've noticed, having spoken to a lot of people that we both know, but also having quite a variety of different people on the series so far, is that a lot of people tend to kind of have their own, like for example, like you said, they have their own blogs, and then they kind of go, they then get work at an outlet. How did the Empire thing come about? Because I'm intrigued to know about that.
That's a funny story.
Hmm. Okay.
so so years years ago, it's like 2009.
Hmm.
No, it's more than that. Sorry, 2006.
Hmm.
That. So in 2006, it was the first year of Star Wars Celebration Europe,
Hmm.
and I went there with my partner. Um, Feeling underwhelmed by the exhibits because it was quite a small event,
Yeah.
a small event in a big venue, and we wandered to the hall and I see the Empire stand and I was freaking out because
Hmm.
I was a huge fan of the Empire magazine. I
Yeah.
actually had a special subscriber cover with
Hmm.
Star Wars cover
Yeah.
in my bag. So I got very excited and I wandered up to them and say, I owe you taught me everything I knew about film.
Yeah.
And my partner said, "Oh, give her a job," jokingly.
Hmm.
And then I said I was just reading off all my favorite films, and then uh, one of the staff members gave me their business card.
Hmm.
So I was like, "Great, all right, I'll email you on Monday." Did that. Nothing happened. I was
Hmm.
like, "Okay, fine." And then 3 years later, MovieCon happened at the BFI, which was like a weekender event.
Yeah.
We just watch we would just sit in NFT1 at the BFI, watch films, watch trailers, win prizes. It's a very geeky but
Yeah.
very heartwarming event. So I went and I saw this staff member, and I told them, it's like, I don't know if you remember me, but I have your business card in my purse. And I
Mm,
actually showed it to them. I was like,
mm.
all right, I'm so sorry. Okay, on Monday we will definitely sort this out. So it did. And so they did, and that was what happened.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like the most random
Mm.
story, but I swear that's how what happened.
Sorry, I'm still trying, still wrapping my head around that. That's just really cool. I love that. Um, so on a similar note, going from the writing to your actual taste in film, what was if you can remember this is, what is the first film that you remember seeing that really sparked your love for cinema that you can at least remember, or if there's a couple, what are the first ones that come to mind?
Well, I did mention this earlier, but I think Enter
Yeah,
the Dragon was like it set for me the precipice of what
yeah,
action cinema should be.
mm,
Because especially as like I actually held, I actually took part in an intro at the
mm,
BFI for this film, um, and I noted that it was not just like yes, it's a film of its time, but it was quite a prime example of how representation was possible in the
mm,
1970s.
yeah,
Because you had Bruce Lee, who was speaking English, he was Asian, he was leading a mostly diverse cast in a kung fu film that was quite
mm,
rare, if not that was the first ever film made in Hollywood. To have
mm,
all those stakes against him and then have this as the most one of the most influential martial arts films in history,
mm,
that's says a lot about what was possible then.
mm,
And God only knows what could have been possible now if
mm.
he was still alive. But fast forward a few years, I think it wasn't until I watched Train Spotting for the first time that made
Okay.
me think this is an art form. This is
Mm,
something you don't need to be, you don't need to delve into cliches. You don't need to delve into something that's would be conventional, like like Disneyland and the fairy tales and all that stuff.
mm,
This is something that can be dark yet morbidly funny.
mm,
And I just thought this is like the kind of thing that, you know, it was a bit lacking that
mm,
that risk of doing something different, that
mm,
vision of doing something different, especially with a mostly unknown cast at that time.
mm,
And for me, it was just like, this is just unlike anything I'd ever watched before.
mm,
And I still think so. It's one of my favorite films, Trainspotting. So
mm. No, it's a great film. To be honest, they're both really great films. Um, but I always, again, even thinking back to like films that sparked my love of cinema, but also the previous answers I've had on the series, there always seems to be like two. There was like the one that got you in the first place, and then there's the one that makes you just appreciate it more as an art form. I can't for the life of me think what my ones are, but I love the fact that that always ends up being the case because Enter the Dragon is great for the genre that it's in, but Train Spotting I can like there's so many visually creative things in that film alone that because I think I watched that at too young of an age, probably, um, and it's one of those films where like the when you watch it, you're just like, I didn't even know half of this was possible, considering the themes that it's trying to tackle. I'm mincing my words here, but I think you know where I'm coming from.
yeah, I do. It's like, how can you make this book that was
Mm,
seem completely illegible
mm,
into something that a lot of people can resonate with?
mm. Yeah,
And I think
no,
that's what
definitely.
Dan Boyle did so well.
Danny Boyle's always very. I mean, I love Danny Boyle. He's probably always one of my favorite, going to be one of my favorite filmmakers because he's very good at taking something that on paper shouldn't work as a film, but then he finds the visual language of translating that to film. Like, if you'd pitched the idea of Steve Jobs to me, I'd be like, okay, I guess that kind of works. But the way he does it in that film or any of his films is like he's found that that specific thing that just makes it work for that art form. Um, and also,
I enjoyed Steve Jobs. I just haven't seen it from past that first time because I
mm,
watched it at a London Film Festival.
mm,
That was the only time I'd seen it. And I just remember being blown away by Sorkin's screenplay.
mm,
It was
I,
so good.
I think I'm probably gonna piss a few people off, but I prefer Steve Jobs to the Social Network. I
Oh
love
no, no.
I love the
Oh wow,
social.
that's a controversial opinion.
Don't get me wrong, I love both. Like they're both in my top 100 favorite films, but I mean, I always feel like coming back to both. I think because of the script is just so like you find something new with it every time. But with Steve Jobs, I just think there's a certain because it's got like a rigid three-act structure and you pick up on something new every time. I don't know. I've been enamored with Steve Jobs since I first saw it. I like how we've just gone completely pushed Trainspotting to the side. Sorry, um,
Okay.
but yeah, I just love it. And also going back to Enter the Dragon, the more you were saying about the representation and the diversity of the cast, it does make you think because, like you said, especially for when it was released, and then you think about who's in it. There's literally like almost there's more diversity in that film than some films we get nowadays, and that's kind of mind blowing considering the decade in which that film came out.
Mm. Yeah, and especially as like martial arts films were not a big genre in Hollywood.
Mm,
And so to have a relative, well, I say relative unknown, he
mm,
was big, he'd already made his name in Hong Kong, and American audiences know about the Green from the Green Hornet.
yeah.
But it was like, how can how can we make a picture that will elevate Lee into a star?
Mm,
And I think because because I know that there were like some query, like some disagreements that he just with certain projects that
mm,
he did not have the chance to fully commit to his philosophy in fighting.
mm,
And so when 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 the 25th anniversary of Enter the Dragon came out on video,
mm,
this was a while ago, there's a certain scene in it that talks about his own opinions on fighting. And this is a scene that was always cut out. I shared this on social media recently.
mm,
It's a scene that's always cut out, but then if you watch it, you'll realize what he wanted to achieve
yeah.
through Enter the Dragon. And I wish that they kind of included it a bit more because it also gives a bit of a foreshadowing for later on in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I remember seeing you post that, and I because I've only seen Enter the Dragon once, and it was a little while ago, but it was it's just it's just interesting what they kind of leave on the cutting room floor. And again, I guess for the time that it was released, it's like I get why it was cut, but it just adds an extra a layer to something, and it this actually quite nicely leads on to another question that I had, because you've said on social media and the stuff you've written before that you are a advocate for Asian representation in uh, Western cinema, specifically Hollywood, and I just kind of wanted to ask about that in terms of whether you think it's moving in the right direction at all, and whether it's moving in a positive direction or whether we're kind of taking two steps back, so to speak.
So with regards to Adrian presentation, it's been up and down the
Mm,
last few years. You know, they had Crazy Rich Asians and Shang-Chi and Everything Everywhere and Joyride. They'd be all and
yeah.
loads of TV shows. You had Kim's Convenience, Fresh Off the Boat. They all have varying highs and lows of how Asians are portrayed in Western media, but they're all from an American point. Most of them from an American point of view. So
Mm.
I don't think it's as varied as it could be.
Mm.
And sometimes, and most people, if they want to see Asian Asians on screen, they'll probably get something that was produced from an actual country, like The Raid,
Yeah.
for instance. And I actually watching this is Shadow Strays
Mm.
on Netflix. So I mean, it's great that they're getting different opportunities in different roles. That's not just the dragon lady, lotus flower,
Mm.
the bad guy with the bad accent, um, yellow face and all that
Yeah.
literal word bullshit. But anyway,
That, yeah, no, that
um,
is true.
but it's just like I feel that even though they've made a point
Mm.
that they can do a variety of roles. I think
Mm.
Everything Everywhere is just an epitome of that.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Sue, Kyo Kwan, they're all doing different things in that film
Mm.
and just killing it.
Mm.
However, I think there needs to be a point is that Hollywood are still reluctant to cast him in daring projects because they
Mm.
might think they are financially viable choices. I don't know
Mm.
why. Um, and I think that's just a bit, I don't know, it's a bit upsetting.
Mm.
And also, I say it's from an American point of view. There's a strong Asian community in the UK, but
Mm.
they've not had as high of a chance to showcase their work
Mm.
as much as the American counterparts. So
Mm.
I've been championing a film called Raging Grace. That was released last year. It's made by a British Filipino director, and it talks about and themes about how Filipino workers struggle in healthcare environments.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me phrase that. It seems about how Filipino healthcare workers struggling in an
Mm.
environment where they're basically underestimated, just brushed aside, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it's that but that film got a very quiet release and it didn't get the attention that I think it deserved,
Mm.
especially as we were coming out of COVID, that attention was needed to bring that different perspective,
Yeah.
especially also from like the immigrant experience as well
Mm.
as how Asians were perceived in society.
Mm.
Those are the kind of messages that I feel that Asians can still tell.
Mm.
It's just the industry should be open to hearing about them and willing to support them rather
Mm.
than just pushing aside that just be a bit more marketable.
Yeah. No, I totally, because funnily enough, when you said about it, a lot of these films focus on the American perspective. The one thing I did immediately think of is like outside of like maybe two, three films, there haven't, at least not in the public domain, there haven't been many British Asian films, at least not off the top of my head. And that's quite sad to see because, like you said, there is a big community of that in the UK. So the fact that it's not represented on film, yet you get yeah, you get a million British indie films of like the white working class and stuff like that, and I'm like, there is a whole other, you know, demographic you could be looking at in these films, but you're choosing not to. And I just find that quite interesting. Because there's, like you said, there are steps in the right direction in some aspects, but then there are other elements, and this even goes to the American stuff as well. That it feels like they're sometimes taking two steps back because, like, you'd have thought with Parasite winning Best Picture that something would change, but in the last since Parasite winning, outside of Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's just kind of stayed the same as it has been, and this it's kind of sad to see. And even with some of the actors, I do feel like because of Everything Everywhere All at Once, as amazing as Ke Huy Quan was, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does feel like everything he's been cast in since is just like another version of what he did in that film, if that makes sense. And there's no he's kind of unfortunately falling into the typecast, which I hope he doesn't. But with you,
Well, he's going to be in his first lead role
mm,
in Love Hurts.
yeah,
I think that's a very similar thread to um, his performance as Waymond in
mm,
Everything Everywhere. But it's just like it's. I mean, it's good. Yeah, he's got his first lead role, but it's bad. It might just keep
yeah,
him in the box that prevents him from doing more.
mm,
So I don't know, but I don't know. I guess it's you never know with these things. You don't know if it's going to be something that will open up different things or
mm,
just show that there's someone taking notice. It's hard to
mm,
tell.
yeah. And I also think this goes back to like the age old debate of more people that are not as into film should watch more foreign, non-English language cinema. Because I've said this on a couple of episodes, but I think some of the best films being made today are not even in the English language. Um, Someone will probably correct me in the comments, but I don't care. um, but I do think that is the case because, like you said, as soon as you actually said that, like a lot of the best films that show that representation are ones actually from those countries. And as soon as you said that, I immediately thought of like a million examples, like that just immediately came to my head that are great modern films from those countries. But they're only going to appeal to certain people like us that are into film. Then I feel like there's still that, again, despite Parasite winning Best Picture, there's still a bit of that barrier that the general public still hasn't quite gotten over yet, which I think is a stupid barrier nonetheless. But it pains me that that's even the case in the first place.
It's unfortunately the kind of situation that we always have to deal with that, you know, audiences will always go for something that will be the most pleasing.
Mm,
And sometimes world cinema, they're a bit too daring or too precarious, too
mm,
risque. And but they are the kind of films that think outside the box.
mm,
They dare to bring a different way of storytelling. But if they do, if but it's like I think was it Bong Joon Ho said you just have to look past that inch at the very bottom
yeah.
because you can still say a lot
Mm,
even if you don't understand it.
mm. That quote from Bong Joon Ho at the Emmys has lived rent free in my brain since he said it because I'm like, yes, you're saying what I'm
Someone
thinking.
needed to say it. If it wasn't him, it was someone else.
Mm,
It's just that was when Parasite was just sweeping the
mm.
awards, and it was amazing.
I think I think film I would say film Twitter, but just the film community as a whole was just the one time everyone collectively came to the agreement of like that is the right choice. Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone lived in harmony. It was a one-off thing, and then everyone started bitching and moaning again.
I think the foreign film.
Oh,
Oh, shut
Par-
up. Shut up.
Parasite created unity, and then every year since, duh, down the drain.
It's there'll always be someone who'll complain about something, and it's just like you
Yeah,
can't please everybody,
no,
despite what people might think. It's just unfortunate. But Parasite is a better film.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my YouTube comments can also agree with that statement as well. Oh god, they like to tell me I'm wrong. Uh, so I thought while we were on that topic talking about Enter the Dragon, I thought that kind of seemed like the perfect point to bring that up. But I
That's fine.
kind of just want to go back to your writing a little bit. Do you, because you've written for such a variety of different outlets, I was wondering if there is a specific approach you have to tackling, say, a review or a full-blown piece, and does it change depending on the topic? Maybe not necessarily the film, but like if there's a more sensitive topic with one thing, does your approach change, or do you have like a set structure for everything?
Most of my time, it's just like a brief synopsis, cons, pros,
Mm,
and close. But it's like now I'm like thinking, but nowadays I'm just like my reviews are getting longer and longer because I'm like
mm,
you're analyzing the themes, you're analyzing the how characteristics within the film are affecting a dynamic and
yeah.
how that benefits or affects the narrative.
Mm,
But with features, it's a bit tricky because I don't write as many as I used to.
mm.
Most of them are from a personal perspective. Like when I did my piece on like when I wrote about everything everywhere, it was from a very, very personal place because it
Yeah.
talks about, the mother-daughter dynamic in the film, and that it was something I could just resonate wholeheartedly to the point that it just kind of flowed off the page. And
Mm,
then and then um with other pieces of content like program notes and stuff, it's just like that perspective. What is this film trying to tell
mm,
people? You know, for instance, I wrote about Ping Pong, which is actually the first ever UK Chinese film ever
okay.
made. Yeah, it was made in the 1980s,
Mm,
and it's about a Chinese woman who, despite being from Macau, she doesn't speak a word of Cantonese, but she's
mm,
been hired to oversee 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 the will
mm,
of a late Chinese restaurateur.
mm,
So for me, it was just like the cultural clashes between her and the family because she's being exposed to a culture that she's not familiar with, seeing how this family respects certain traditions that may or may not be well known in Chinese culture, and
mm,
how and because it was filmed in Chinatown, it was the first film that we filmed around there,
mm,
how it is presented to the audience, as well as raising that, highlighting that there's a, a British born Chinese contingent
yeah.
there, and it is and this director whose film who even though he's made films, this is his first one that was made in the UK.
Yeah.
He was putting this out there. He was highlighting Chinese people, the Chinese community in through the restaurants and through how they interact with tourists, and
Mm,
even like bootleg video stores from like the 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 public side and the private side.
mm,
So it's just like it's just trying to see how like when it comes to writing about it though, it's like if what did I want to tell people
mm,
about this film? Why should they see this film essentially? And why is this film more
mm,
prominent in its message, in its
mm,
themes, and what in its narrative as well? Why is it why watch it essentially?
mm. Yeah, no, I totally. I mean, like we said before we started recording, I haven't been writing nearly as long as you. I haven't got nearly as much experience, but I've already started to realize with the stuff I have written, because this has been my first proper year of like it being mental with the amount of stuff I've written, that reviews can like occasionally if there's something you can cling on to there might be a personal aspect, but a lot of the time you're just trying to get thoughts down on paper and explain to the reader why you should see this film and like you said the themes, whereas feature long pieces can is kind of giving you room to breathe in terms of being more personal, and kind of it can kind of feel a bit cathartic in that process because because you're so busy writing these reviews we don't get the chance to do that half the time. Some of these pieces can feel a bit more like getting something off your chest. Like the best example I have, again with my with my limited experience, is my first ever paid piece, which was earlier this year, was a piece that I'd been wanting to write for bloody ages, even before I got into writing properly, and it was about autistic representation in film, because the films that do tackle, as someone on the spectrum, every time I watch a film that tries to tackle that subject, they either get it ever so like they get most of it right, but there's something just wrong, or they just go completely in a tone deaf direction with it. And I wanted to look at a film that actually got it right for once, so there's an animated film called Mary and Max, who's the same director as Memoir of a Snail, and I was like, that film's 15 years old. I can tie this into an anniversary piece. It's a win-win for me, and that's the most cathartic I've ever felt writing anything. Mainly because I could spend a little bit of it having a bit of a moan up, going, most films about autism are just like they don't get it right. But I do get what you mean in terms of the example you gave, because it kind of gives you that opportunity to kind of go, right, I'm kind of putting myself out on the thing without being too personal, because I know that's been a point of contention in film journalism recently, is whether you put too much of yourself in it, and we're not going to go into that. We're not going to open that barrel, but it allows you to put a little bit of yourself into it, which I think is quite can be quite refreshing, if that makes it, if any of that made sense.
It does. It does. Also, I don't look, I don't mind writers getting personal because
Mm,
that's how they want to set the scene or reiterate a
yeah.
point. It's just I think I was like from like when I was starting out, I was told not to kind of do that.
Mm,
I think it's just so that you kind of establish that tone of neutrality,
mm,
that you're not completely you're not directing the reader,
mm,
you're directing an audience in terms of like grander scheme things.
yeah.
But you know, is I know you. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I think we won't name
But
names, but I
but
think.
but it's each to their own, really. And
Mm,
if they are able to set the scene effectively by writing it first person,
mm,
then kudos to them. You know,
mm,
and
yeah.
sometimes it can be hard to set the scene if you're,
Mm,
especially if it's about a film that is hard to place or is
mm,
tricky to kind of like, oh, this might be something I would want to read about.
mm. I've also realised as well that, like, even though most outlets have like, we need you to write in this manner and not this, at the end of the day, if you write, like, sometimes if you're writing for yourself, or each person has their own style. Like, that is also the other thing as well. And again, I think I've addressed this with a few other people on the series, is that, like, you just kind, especially if with your years of experience and my experience, um, you kind of just find your own flow, even if you're writing within like restraints of, oh, you have to write in this way. You kind of just find your flow, and if that flow is writing in the first person, that works for you. So, whilst you're on the topic of writing and specifically your career in that, has there been, this can either be a piece that you've written or it can be something you've had the opportunity to do, but what has been a career highlight for you throughout the entire time you've been doing this?
Um, when I got accredited to Rotten Tomatoes,
Mm,
that was a big thing
mm,
because for a very long time, Rotten Tomatoes is not don't allow people to be accredited
mm,
unless they were with a notable outlet,
mm,
which such as a newspaper or website. And then they changed their specifications so that anyone who had been writing for a certain number of years
yeah.
and had a certain number of pieces could apply and be accredited. And I applied and I was just like, okay, fine, we'll see what happens. And I just
Mm,
remember getting the email. This was before they had the special banner. So
yeah.
I just can't look like a normal email.
Mm.
And I just remember looking at it. I was just like, holy crap, I'm going to be on tomatoes. I'm going to be one of
Mm,
those critics, you know? And then that was the kind of thing that
mm,
where people started to take notice,
mm.
going to, they start contacting you for quotes and getting the invites and stuff. And
Mm.
that was a big thing. But then
That
it's
that
like,
was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
2019, so it was quite a long
Oh
time
God,
ago.
yeah, sorry. To be honest, there's a slight blur between like 2019 happened and now we're just here. So it felt like a good couple. It felt like just
Yeah,
like last year or something.
it did feel like well, it was before the pandemic,
Mm.
so make of that as you will. But yeah, it was that was a good. But then there's like loads of other small things, like small triumphs,
Yeah.
like being on the Empire podcast,
Mm.
getting my piece published on Digital Spy, where
Mm.
getting featured on tube posters, like for quotes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
again, getting introducing a film at the BFI, which is
Mm.
completely insane. Um, so yeah, there's loads of small things that champion it,
Mm.
and then certain pieces that I did, I look back at and I think, how the hell did I write this? This is really good. I don't know how I wrote this. Like I look like I was reading my review of The Killers of the Flower Moon, which is like 700 words long,
Yeah.
which is longer than most reviews that I've written, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like this seems to read so well.
Mm.
It's a 3 hour film at 8 o'clock in the morning. How did I manage to write this?
Mm.
But yeah, it's like you have to celebrate the small wins, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely behind that. Also, I can definitely I know where you're coming from with the reviews thing because it's just like a lot of the ones you end up writing can just be a bit like, especially if it's a tight deadline, you just kind of go boom done.
Yeah.
And that occasionally you'll look back at one and go, "Oh, I actually kind of knew what I was doing with that one." Yeah,
Yeah,
get that.
especially like if it's a film that, during a festival
Mm,
season, or if it's a big film that you just want to make sure you get it in just before the embargo drops,
yeah.
and you want to make sure that it reads well so that people will share it, talk
Mm,
about it, all that stuff.
mm,
Yeah. But then I'll just kind of like to start typing and like
mm.
re typing, reading, typing. And then when you hit publish and then you look back at it a few months later, you either think, oh God, it's a load of crap. Or you think, how the hell did I write this? This is actually really good. I should be
Mm,
writing more like this. But
yeah.
this is
I,
what deprivation does to you.
I feel like the best examples of that, those complete 360s, come during the festival season because you'll write one day and you're like, yeah, I'm on fire, and then you write one that was either about a film that you weren't that keen on or just like you had to just push it out, and then you're just like, half this isn't a coherent sentence. What was I doing?
Or if there's certain films that you just completely hate and you don't mind just slating the crap out of it,
Mm,
those will come out real easily.
yeah, yeah, they've they definitely do. Um, so moving away from the writing perspective and now moving on to just your general taste in film, um, or just film in general, that is. Throwing in a new question, which I haven't really asked on here before, but I just wanted to test it, and that is, what is an underrated or hidden gem of a film that you wish more people should see? Just the first one that comes to your head, or one that particularly has a
there's
big
there's one film that I've talked for like for
thing.
years, and I will still recommend it to anybody who asks. It's Custody. I
Mm,
don't know if you've heard of it
mm.
or seen it.
It sounds familiar.
It stars Denis Menachet, who was in Glorious Bastards.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a divorced couple. It's about a couple who's undergoing divorce, but they are dividing custody of their young son.
Mm,
And because the film starts out in divorce court, you don't know who's telling the truth as to who is doing what. And the film kind of follows the truth start to come out, and you see this tension growing
yeah.
in between the couple to the point where it actually becomes quite frightening. The last 5 or 10 minutes was so intense,
Mm.
but so beautifully put together. And it's just like, and the film's like 90 minutes.
Oh
It's
wow.
perfect. So I recommend that to anybody.
When did you say it came out again?
I think 2016, because it came out as part of I think Glasgow Film Festival. It won the Audience Award.
Mm.
and it's been shown sometimes on Film 4, so you
Hmm.
can see it on the app, but
Okay.
not it's not a film that a lot of people know about, and it's
Hmm.
like this film's great. Why not? But no, yeah, I loved it so much. It's on my Sight and Sound
Hmm.
top 10 of all time. That's how much I
Okay.
love it.
I love it when a film. I mean, I used to do this before I even got into like YouTube and writing stuff. But like, if a film ever came along and I was like, no one in my friend circle had heard about it, I'd just keep poking them to watch it until they came. I think I annoyed everyone at secondary school when Seven Psychopaths came out because I was like, I love this film, more people should watch it. And then it got to the point where I talked about it too much, and then they were just like, no, we're not going to watch it because you won't shut up about it.
Oh dear.
Oh god, I will still defend that film. You heard it here first. Katie's recommendation is Custody from 2016. I will definitely try and watch that at some point because I mean, you've sold it to me. I do like those sorts of crime films.
If it helps, I recommend it to somebody else on their podcast, and they loved it as well.
Okay, instantly sold. Instantly sold. Um, Now, complete other end of the spectrum. I like throwing this one in just for shits and giggles, I guess you could say.
Okay.
What's the worst or one of the worst films you've ever seen? I try and keep this channel as positive as I can, but I like throwing this one in just for the hell of it.
Oh God, there is this one. There is a film. I hate it so much, and
I'm intrigued.
it,
Go on.
it's. I give it a year. The British rom com.
Okay, that's the first film someone's mentioned that I've already seen, and I say I don't mind it. I've not seen it since 2013, so I might just be misremembering it. But
Okay, well, it's just if you think it's not a rom com at all, it's horrible because I'm sorry, but if you for those who haven't seen it, it's basically a married couple, obviously wrong with each other,
mm,
refuse to divorce, but then fall in love with two other people, and I'm like, and then they're happy when they choose to separate, and I'm like, you're making each other miserable,
mm,
and rather than split amicably,
mm.
and you know, you just fall in love and cheat with somebody else, and it's just like, sorry, spoiler alert, but it's like,
Fair enough. It's been out for like over 10 years, so it's
I
fine.
know, but it's just like, oh my god, it was just so horrible. I just think that's not the kind of rom-com
Mm,
vibe that I want from this rom-com. If it is a rom-com, which it's
mm.
not, because it's rubbish. So it's just like, and Stephen Merchant's in it, and he's unbearable, and
Mm.
it's just
Because Rafe
I just
Spall and Minnie Driver are like the main couple, aren't they?
no, it's Rose Byrne. Rose
Rose,
Byrne
yes, sorry,
and had
like I
Anna
said, I
Faris in it.
haven't seen it since 2013, so like I know I'm remembering bits and pieces, but I'm like, was
But I
that
just
from this
thought
film or another one?
this is not the kind of film that promotes, companionship and all that
Mm.
stuff. I don't know
I
if it was supposed to be taken seriously, but I just like,
I'm, I'm gonna be honest. I've in the back of my head every time like because it's one of those films where like I forget it exists. I know I've watched it, but like I forget it exists, and then when I remember it or like see it on Letterboxd or Film 4 or something, I'm then suddenly like, oh, I guess I should give that a rewatch, but maybe not. Maybe not. I think because this is the thing. It's funny you bring those things up because I remember the one issue I had with it back in. I thought the film was okay. Again, I might be misremembering. I don't know, but I remember the one issue I had was it with it is that like a good rom com should be a nice balance of getting the romance and the comedy just right, and they kind of not. I guess it's a appropriate term. They marry each other. Um, but I felt like the one issue I had was like it's so focused on trying to be funny that all the romantic stuff just kind of, I mean, like you said it perfectly, kind of just is a mess, and
it
because
got
it's
pissed away. That's why.
yeah,
It's
I
just, and when they're in efforts to be funny, they
mm,
became very unfunny,
yeah,
and it just became painful
mm,
to watch to the
mm,
point that I, you know. was willing for them to just.
Those are the worst types of comedies, is when you're just there's a difference between like you watching a comedy and then like not clicking with it, and there's a difference between a comedy trying to be funny but not. I can think of a million examples, um, but they're kind of just, again, I try and keep it positive on this channel, but they are the worst. They are the worst.
That's why I enjoyed Your Monster,
Mm,
because it was really funny and
yeah.
very sweet, even
Mm,
though it was an unconventional
mm,
romantic horror comedy.
mm,
So, and I think with the romance thing, it didn't pull off as a romance. It had like this very buddy like chemistry between Dewey and Barrera, which I
yeah.
really, because sometimes that sometimes the friends to
Mm,
partners think the chemistry feels more natural rather
mm.
than just I give it a year where the chemistry is just not there.
No, no, that's completely fair enough. And I also kind of think that like I I don't like these sorts of comedies, but like I would rather watch a comedy that is trying and fails than something like I Give It a Year where it's like, yeah, it's trying and it's not good. It's like the best example I have is there was a film, I don't know if you've seen it, Sasquatch Sunset.
It rings a bell.
Sasquatch some sorry, I've ruined that. My mouth just went Sasquatch.
Okay.
um, I'd heard a lot of buzz about it from Sundance and Sundance London, and then I decided to just rent it on a whim one night, and it's one of those films where I'm honestly I the premise of the film is literally as one note as you'll get. Riley Keough, Jesse Eisenberg, and then two other actors play a family of Sasquatch, and that's it. There's no plot. They don't talk. They just grunt to each other for about 90 minutes, and that's the joke.
Huh.
That's yeah, and it gets really gross in places. Like they stumble across. I mean, this is spoilers, but who the hell's going to care about spoilers for Sasquatch Sunset? They come, so they're just like walking around the woods, and they come across a road for the first time, and they lose their minds, and then decide to mark their territory by pooing, peeing, and throwing up on the road. And I'm like, who is this film made for? And what is the joke? Because I'm not getting it. And the way you're re-describing I Give It a Year is making me think of me watching Sasquatch Sunset, where I'm like, I bet the people making this found it hilarious. I don't get it.
When they hide, it's just like, oh god, it's like watching Pool Man all over again. Oh,
Don't get me started on Paul, man.
that was
I
an experience, I tell you what.
so I can't believe we're already at the second to last question. That's gone really quickly. So this is the big question I like to ask everyone because I feel like it's the most fun. If you were stranded on a desert island and could choose 5 films to have with you, what are you choosing and why? And the amount of people recently that have started questioning the logistics of the question, and I'm like, that's not the point. I don't care how you're
All right,
watching these
okay,
films. You're just you're just on an island. There's a DVD player. Just work with it.
okay, all right. You think? Okay, first one,
Hmm.
Almost Famous. Love that
Okay,
film
love. That's brilliant choice.
and great soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Number two, Monsoon Wedding. It is one of
Okay.
my. It's the film that I watch when I'm ill. It's
Mm,
like one of those pick me up films because
yeah.
it's so vibrant and so and and it's so colorful
Mm,
and it just it gets the point. It can be a bit like tumultuous, but it
mm.
has this feel good vibes afterwards. Um, Third, Singing in the Rain.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. For for um, Crouching Tiger. Love that film.
Fair enough.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I just I adore that film so much.
Mm,
Um, and number five. Let me think. I'll be inclined to choose Tarantino. Oh,
okay.
Glorious Bastards.
Yes. The correct answer.
I love Inglourious Bastards. It's my
Mm,
favorite Tarantino film. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs. No, it's not.
It's
Glorious
Inglourious
Bastards is
Bastard.
actually one of the
Yeah,
smart. Sorry, my cat's just jumping in.
it's all good. Um,
Yeah, yeah, Glorious Bastards. There we go.
I'm so glad you said that because I will die on the hill that Inglorious Bastards is his best film. I don't care what anyone says.
I second you. I'll be on
Yeah,
that hill with you.
yes. Don't get me wrong. I love Pulp Fiction, Hateful Eight, all that stuff, but Inglorious Bastards just feels like I don't like calling a film perfect, but like I just every time I rewatch it, which isn't that often, but I always have the inkling to like I really fancy rewatching that. But every time I do rewatch it, I'm like I can't. There's nothing here. I could like everything just works. It's just
And
so
it's
different.
also one of those films. All right, I have a thing about languages in films because
Yeah.
I studied Spanish in university, so I have a
Mm,
thing about how, like, if you're in a certain country,
mm,
you should speak the language that they speak.
yeah.
And when you have like war films, it's always in English or German,
Mm.
and it's like bloody boring. So, but
Yeah.
then you have like, but then in Glorious Bastards, language is not only treated with respect because you have like people actually speaking French and
Yeah.
German like they should, and
Mm,
Italian,
yeah.
but they also use like the cultural differences as a weapon,
Mm, mm,
and it's so bloody smart. The way
yeah.
they've done it is so smart that
Mm,
unless you knew about it, you wouldn't really think about it. You wouldn't be looking out for it, the visual
mm,
cues,
yeah.
the surprises, and I think that just makes it so great. The one thing that I would want is that I read that Maggie Chung was supposed to play Ada Mimio's aunt because
Okay.
Maggie Chung is a polyglot. She can
Mm,
speak French.
mm.
I would want that cut.
Yeah, I want that. Now that you've said that, I'm like, I
Yeah, it was
need this.
apparently cut. I'm like, I cut.
You know what? I doubt it's on there, but I want to check my Blu-ray now just to see if it's on the
It's not
deleted.
on there. I don't think it. I think it's. I know. I know. I'm like, I want that cut. I want that scene.
Yeah. Um, funny you mentioned the languages thing because, like, as you're saying it, I'm like that. It don't want to give Tarantino too much credit, but it is one of the most in like clever, intelligent uses of language in a film. Like that whole scene at the bar is one of my favorite scenes. Full stop. Because it plays with expectations, but like you said, uses language as like a weapon, but also because a lot of films, especially war films or something where there's like multiple dialects and countries all interplaying at once, it just cause kind of is immediately written off of like that's the Italian person, that's the French person, whereas that is like using it as an element in the actual scene itself and it makes the scene just that more tense on top of everything else that's going on, like the German officer trying to suss out the British guy. Like, there's so many things going on. Sorry, I could gush about that one scene for days because it's bloody brilliant. Ashamed to say this, I've not actually seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, you should.
I've been
You
meaning to watch it for years, but I've just
you
never had the
really
chance.
should.
Yeah,
You
I.
really need to watch it. I mean, if you love your martial arts films, then yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
I know. I don't know why. I saw that some people didn't like it. I was like, have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Did we watch the same film?
It's just like, yeah.
Also, you've intrigued me because I've honestly never heard of Monsoon Wedding, but just from your description alone, I'm now really intrigued to see it because
Yeah,
just your description.
it's a British Indian film.
Okay.
But it's so yeah. God, I love it because it's because I'll tell you about it. It's about a family who prepares for a wedding. The daughter's being married off, but it's all
Hmm.
there's lots of little family dramas that are interplaying
Hmm.
all up to this wedding, and it's a very elaborate wedding because it's in India. But
Hmm.
seeing how the family kind of come together and rely off each other with the different, and there's loads of different backgrounds, different viewpoints, perspectives as well, and
Hmm.
and the music is just oh my god, it's just it's just it's very different.
Yeah.
and it's very, but it's very vibrant as well.
Mm.
And yeah, I adore it. I really do. Like I
So,
said, it's one film I watch when I'm
mm,
ill.
okay, I love that. I love that. If anyone ever recommends me like a good comfort watch or like an ill day film, I will always check that out because I'm always trying to look for more. I know what I mean when I say this. More positive films than you know.
I thought you were going to say more ill day films. Like,
No,
I'm really getting sick.
I'm a very sick man. So to round things off, just a very quick, simple question to end on: are there any? And I know this can be a bit tricky because we're now at the end of the year. But are there any upcoming releases in the next few months, or even maybe 2025 releases that you're specifically looking forward to?
I'm so busy with the overseas that I haven't really thought about it. Sorry,
Fair
hold on
enough.
for a second. Just cut. I should have thought about this one first, shouldn't I? But they
I mean,
really,
this is the one that I don't write down and throw it at people at the last minute, so I just kind of go with the flow on that one.
well, thanks very
I
much for
apologize. I apologize.
that. Okay,
Note to
hang on.
self: write it down for future episodes.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like not gonna really think about. Oh, oh God. Sorry. Sorry. I was just like it's just like remake after remake after
Yeah.
reboot after remake, and I'm just like, oh, for goodness sake. Anyway, so 2025 releases: John Wick, Ballerina. Looking
Yeah.
forward to that, and Mission Impossible, just to see him,
Mm.
just to
Yeah.
see him run again,
Yeah.
just to see what. Because like the teaser trailer did reveal quite a bit, and I
Mm.
think it plays into some of the past films as
Mm.
well. So
Mm.
see what see what they do with that, especially as like it's the last film of the franchise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
it
feel
needs to
like
be something big.
we're all at the point where, like, if a Mission Impossible film's around the corner, it's going to be on everyone's most anticipated list. Don't even need to ask any
You
questions.
say
It's
that,
just
but I was
like,
like, but you say that, I was in a lull
mm,
after I think Ghost Protocol,
yeah,
and I was thinking, what else can they do with a Mission Impossible film? Then
mm,
Fallout came out, and I'm like, this is really good.
mm,
They should make more films like this. But anyway, um, and yeah, I'm curious to see what Anna de Armas will do in John
mm,
Wick because I love John Wick.
yeah. I love the John Wick films as well. I know
Also,
everyone loves the
watch the
fact.
first one.
Hmm?
I can't watch the first one again.
Why's that?
I like Beagle puppies.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. No, fair enough. I'll give you that one. Yeah, I don't know about you, but like I know everyone bangs on about how good the first one is, but I actually kind of feel like they got better each with each film, and they kind of found their stride a little bit. Because I adore the third and fourth film. I absolutely love those two.
Yeah, the third one's really good. I
Mm,
only watched. I think I need to rewatch the fourth one,
mm,
mainly because Donnie Yen's in it, and there's a great stair scene in that one.
mm. To be honest, I part of the reason I was really excited for the fourth one and loved it as much as I did was because of Donnie Yen and the fact that, like, I mean, what was the thing I said when it came out? I was like, it's weird that Donnie Yen's played a blind badass twice, and I wish I had. What's the saying? Like, I wish I had a cent for every time Donnie Yen's played a blind badass. I'd have 2 cents. That's not. It's weird that it's cool that I've got 2 cents, but it's just weird it's happened twice. It's been lovely having you on, Katie. Especially talk about such a variety of different things because that's kind of why I love having the variety of guests I do because it feels like a different topic each episodes, and I love having that, and it's been great having you on. Now is your opportunity to tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find your work. And now with the whole X thing kind of sinking into the ground, it makes that a bit more complicated.
It's fine. It's fine. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at Katie Smith-Wong, all one word. And my work is on Fake Feed Movie Marker. Those are my main two outlets, but then I've got pieces on Digital Spy Move, Digital Spy, New Scientist, and then Geek. You just have to find me.
I highly recommend you check out Katie's work. She writes some brilliant stuff, and it's obviously paying off with the whole introduction of Enter the Dragon, which I saw that and I was like, yes, go on, Katie, go
Oh,
on.
oh.
Um, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and there will be more episodes of these out in the future with God knows who I get on, but there will be more of these in the new year. I can definitely, I can definitely confirm that. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.